The story begins in a forested area of Australia where companies like Torrent Mining have been contaminating natural resources for decades. But for the campers, the toxic creek is the least of their problems, as something terrible has happened in one of the tents, and its occupant did not escape alive. We see that the culprit is a kind of demonic kangaroo. Unaware of all this, Sheriff Maddie is living just another normal day, always striving to honor her father's memory. Besides being a war hero and a sports idol, Murray was also a beloved police officer in town. In the forest, a man named Schmitty is hunting with his dog, Ralphie. Noticing the presence of an animal nearby, he starts to advance quietly as he prepares to shoot. The dog begins to bark furiously, but Schmitty ignores him and keeps looking for the target until suddenly the prey turns on the hunter. Even terrified, Schmitty manages to take a shot at the creature. Maddie is at the pub corner, chatting with some locals when Schmitty arrives. He parks in the middle of the street and starts telling her about the attack. Describing the attacker as a possessed kangaroo, he only makes things worse by saying he nicknamed the monster Rippy. He insists that everyone is in mortal danger, recounting how he shot at point-blank range and yet the kangaroo remains standing. Schmitty finishes his plea by saying that Ralphie is missing, and he suspects this monster attacked him. Taking none of this seriously, Maddie only tells him to move the van out of the street and then goes into the pub to break up a fight. Tim and Ricky are two Torrent employees who have had too much to drink, and even Supervisor Dave's presence does not make them behave. Tim wears an eye patch and does not like it when Ricky starts calling him a pirate. He interrupts the fight upon seeing the sheriff with her arms crossed right in front of them, but Ricky is no longer so respectful. Not tolerating disrespect, Maddie drags both of them outside and takes the car keys, suggesting a walk home. As they leave grumbling, Maddie chats with her Aunt Donna, who used to be married to Schmitty and also reacts with disbelief to the report about the immortal kangaroo. They comment on the incident as if it were yet another proof of Schmitty's sad mental state. Still far from home, the two rowdy men continue with their mutual taunts until Ricky says he needs to relieve himself. Tim lights the area with his flashlight, a bit suspicious of the abnormal silence in an area that usually teems with small animals. Passing the beam of light through the bushes ahead, he notices a pair of eyes shining in the dark and gets scared. Ricky turns to explain to his friend that it must just be an animal, but he doesn't finish speaking before being tackled and dragged away. A ferocious roar accompanies the attack, and now Tim is utterly terrified. He runs as fast as he can, but the kangaroo catches up to him effortlessly, and there's no one nearby to hear his screams. The next day, Maddie answers a call from Dave and finds him waiting with Donna. He says he got worried about the two employees and went looking for them, thinking they might have fallen asleep under a tree. Shocked to find what remains of Tim, he searched the underbrush around, soon finding Ricky as well. Examining the state of both, the sheriff admits she has never seen anything like it. Donna says it could be a pack of wolves or even a crocodile, but they are too far from the water, and Maddie says there are no wolves around. Dave says whoever did this had enough strength to drag two men like they were rags. Maddie theorizes that someone ran them over and fled, leaving the duo at the mercy of the hungry wildlife. Donna suggests calling an ambulance or the coroner, but Maddie says that won't happen. Since the area is hard to access, no one will send an ambulance for dead folks, and the coroner is busy with a series of wildfires. This awful situation gets even worse with Schmitty's arrival, lamenting deeply that no one listened to his warnings. In his opinion, this can only be the work of a zombie kangaroo. Donna scolds her ex-husband, reminding him that two people lost their lives and it is not time for nonsense. Maddie asks how he ended up at the crime scene just now, and he says he is still looking for his dog. He tries to get his niece's attention to the marks on the ground, but she just wants him to leave, and he obeys, upset. Hours later, the funeral agent does what he can to help Maddie, acting well beyond his skills. He says he can't determine what caused such damage but shows a bite mark on Ricky's neck. Maddie then receives a call from a colleague who reads the lengthy criminal record of Reuben Williams, one of the new Torrent employees. After a series of minor offenses, he mentions a serious incident that resulted in fatalities. The sheriff calls Dave and explains the situation, warning that she intends to interrogate the suspect. Arriving at the mining company, she notices Reuben's size and immediately asks where he was the night before. When he refuses to answer and asks for a lawyer, she becomes even more convinced that she has found the culprit. Later, at the pub, we see that the news has already spread. An elderly lady says she forbade her son from running at night until the case is resolved.
Confident the danger has passed, Maddie assures them the wrongdoer is behind bars and says Troy can train peacefully, asking the boy to bring a trophy to the town. Excited by the news, Troy doesn't waste time and resumes training that very night. Unfortunately, his headlamp won't be much help against the sharp fangs of the monster we already see lurking along the trail. Hearing the creature's demonic screeches, the boy picks up the pace until his rhythmic run turns into a frantic escape. His mother is setting the dinner table when the chase ends with a horrifying scream. Meanwhile, Maddie is flipping through old photo albums, reminiscing about her father. The newspaper clippings recount his heroic end, where he sacrificed his own life to save Maddie from drowning in a creek. The nostalgia is interrupted by a call from Troy's mother, saying he hasn't returned from his run. She is very worried as the boy never takes this long. When Maddie arrives, the woman has already found her son and is in tears. Maddie becomes even more devastated when she starts blaming her, reminding that the sheriff allowed the night training and promised it would be safe. Donna tries to comfort her niece, and the two end up going back to Schmidt's account. They think Schmidt's imagination may have distorted the facts, but perhaps he might have really seen some kind of wild animal. The sheriff admits she saw the same marks on the ground near where Troy was found, and they match kangaroo tracks. Ready for a strange conversation, Maddie goes to Schmidt's trailer. He arrives apologizing for the mess and says he still hasn't found Ralphie. Then Maddie tells him what happened to Troy. With unexpected wisdom, Schmidt comforts the sheriff, saying this is the heavy burden of the uniform she wears. Maddie says a group will head out early to hunt for the possible monster kangaroo. Very pleased to hear this, Schmidt agrees to join them. In the morning, he shows up well-equipped, ready to help hunt the fearsome predator. The group is made up of volunteers, all Torrent employees. Dave also volunteered to help, saying these youngsters are his responsibility. Donna insisted on participating as well, despite the unpleasant surprise of encountering her ex-husband. Dave and the guys go by jeep to one side while Maddie covers the opposite area with the ex-couple. In the middle of the afternoon, Maddie begins to feel disappointed with the lack of results, and the two start laughing at Schmidt's snoring, who soon wakes up to justify himself. As it gets dark soon, Maddie warns that this is the last stop before returning to the meeting point. Then we see that they are approaching the camping area. Not much tactfully, Schmidt also says they are near the spot where Murray passed away. When the three hear something moving stealthily and separate to investigate, Maddie ends up finding the tent that was attacked. Dave's group is already coming back when one of them sees an animal and shoots. The four go out to check and find a fallen cow. The guy swears it was moving before, but the girl named Jenny finds that hard to believe, as there is a huge wound in its belly. Dave begins to get worried, telling the others to stay quiet and turn off their flashlights. One of the guys asks if he saw something, and Dave says that's not the problem. He's afraid something will see them. Still, he decides to separate the group and send each in a different direction. Whoever finds something should shout for the others. At the camping area, the trio arrives at the contaminated creek, and Schmidt says that water smells like the beast. Apparently, the odor is so strong that the other two don't contradict him, and Donna says it must have something to do with leaks from Torrent. At the same time, Dave's group is about to find what they are looking for. One of the guys is suddenly attacked, and the others rush to help him. Jenny is horrified to see the kangaroo devouring her colleague and immediately shoots at the creature. But the bullets seem to have no effect, and the mutant kangaroo kills the other man, leaving Jenny with no choice but to run for her life. Dave is still standing near the jeep when Jenny approaches. The bouncing monster follows her, closing the distance with every leap until it finally knocks down its prey. All that talk about being a protector of the youth goes out the window, and now Dave only thinks about saving himself. He runs into the jeep while Jenny is being consumed and drives off in a panic, fearing the kangaroo's threatening roar. He is nearing the camping area when the creature attacks the jeep, causing an accident. Maddie and the other two hear the crash and run to see what happened. The jeep is overturned when they arrive, and Dave is alive by a thread. Maddie still tries to save him, but Donna sees that there is nothing more to be done. Very distressed by yet another loss, the sheriff returns to the car, remembering the day she lost her father, so close to there. She tells her aunt that everyone around her ends up with a tragic ending and that she can't save anyone. Then Schmidt says it's time to reveal a secret and tells her that she had nothing to do with Murray's death. He was drunk that day and hit his head on a rock when he entered the lake. Maddie refuses to believe this version and repeats that he saved her. But Schmidt reminds her that she's always been a great swimmer, and thus there was no danger at all.
The townspeople believe the fantasy because that is what they wanted to hear about the sheriff. Donna gets mad at Schmitty for revealing the truth and says Maddie shouldn't remember him like that. However, the posthumous dilemma will have to wait because the zombie kangaroo has just appeared at the car window. Schmitty tells the two to stay still and quiet while the beast slams into the side of the vehicle with all its might. Maddie wants to get out of there, but Schmitty says that's a terrible idea. There's a chance the kangaroo doesn't know there are people in the car. They are still deciding what to do when the monster's head bursts through the back window. Schmitty tries to protect himself while Maddie fires several times. The kangaroo backs off and even topples over, giving Maddie a chance to step on the gas, but she quickly brakes when she sees in the rearview mirror that the creature is already getting back up. Its resilience is impressive, but Donna is even more shocked when her niece turns the car around and speeds away. The kangaroo jumps off the road at the last second, and she loses control of the steering, crashing into a tree. Schmitty announces that he will check the perimeter while the two talk. Maddie is still upset about the lie concerning her father, and Donna begins to cry, apologizing. When Schmitty returns, the sheriff is forced to admit that this kangaroo seems impossible to kill and that the town residents need to be informed about such an unprecedented threat. The three then proceed on foot to the trailer, always checking their surroundings with flashlights. Arriving at Schmitty's modest home, Donna feels awkward upon seeing that her photo is still in the frame. The plan now is to call for reinforcements and then return to the town, but Schmitty warns that the battery is dead and the generator is outside. Maddie says she will go out and asks him to use the radio as soon as the power is back. Then the sheriff starts to cross the underbrush with maximum care, trying not to make any noise. In the trailer, Schmitty tries to talk to Donna and says he thinks about her a lot. Still hurt, she explains that it's too late for a chat. In the 20 years they spent together, he never wanted to open up about the horrors he saw in the war, but kept running off for some radical adventure, as if he still needed the adrenaline of combat. Schmitty then tells her that the divorce was the worst thing that ever happened to him. Surprised to hear this, Donna begins to understand that he has always loved her but doesn't feel worthy enough. With a smile, she starts to lower her guard and even takes his hand. Meanwhile, Maddie is finally reaching the generator when she hears Ralphie's barking and is thrilled to see her old friend. The trailer fills with light when she powers on the generator, and Donna heads straight for the radio. Schmitty jumps for joy upon receiving Ralphie, while Maddie goes to fetch the battery. On her way, she passes a goat tied up and bleeding incessantly. Someone finally hears Donna and informs her that the patrol cars are already on their way, but she tells Schmitty that no one from the pub has responded yet. Outside, the kangaroo is approaching quietly, but Maddie notices the change in the goat's bleeding. She runs to return the battery, urgently calling the others. As soon as the two get into the van, the kangaroo appears right in front of them. Maddie barely has time to jump in the back before it circles around. Schmitty starts the engine, and she begins shooting as the van pulls away, leaving the monster behind. At the pub, everyone is relaxed when the trio arrives. The sound of laughter gradually diminishes as people notice those three standing in the doorway as if they had just stepped out of a battle. Then Maddie explains everything concisely, warning that 4 people were lost on the expedition and that there is a monstrous kangaroo on the loose. At the same time, we see that the beast is already hopping toward the town. Schmitty is at the front of the pub when he sees its silhouette moving in the dark and starts shouting. Everyone rushes inside, and Maddie tells them to lock the doors and block all entrances. The patrons begin to help, dragging furniture to build a barricade at the front door. Maddie and Donna feel relieved to hear a siren, but are disappointed to realize that it's just a car occupied by a single police officer. His name is Stan, and Maddie knows him. Right away, she realizes that he doesn't even know why he came. Stan casually exits the cruiser, calling for the sheriff with a confused look. She shouts from inside the pub, warning him to stay in the car, but he cannot hear her. The kangaroo is right next to poor Stan when he turns around, and everyone watches in horror as he meets his dreadful end. At least his loss serves to raise the awareness of the pub patrons, leaving no doubt about the seriousness of the situation. Then the creature starts charging at the front door, causing general panic. While Schmitty directs everyone to the basement, without forgetting Ralphie, Maddie simply sits in front of the counter. Donna suspects that she has lost her mind, and the suspicion only worsens when the sheriff starts talking about her father again. She tells her niece that the lie was a mistake, but even if he had saved her life, it does not justify the way she lives today, perpetually paying a debt she created herself. Maddie only tells her aunt to hide and continues waiting for the inevitable confrontation. Schmitty is the only one staying by her side when the furniture begins to give way. The two still try to hold the pile, but the kangaroo soon bursts through the door and enters. Maddie and Schmitty crawl behind the counter, where Donna is hiding. When the monster starts sniffing them, Schmitty tries to distract it by throwing an object away, but then Ralphie starts barking, and they realize that the people are not safe in the basement. Determined to defeat the enemy, she steps out from behind the counter shooting, even managing to take out one of the monster's eyes. Donna starts ringing the bell furiously to attract its attention while Schmitty passes an axe to Maddie. She keeps striking until another eye closes. The three embrace, and people begin to exit the basement while Ralphie sniffs the inert carcass. The next day, Ruben is in his cell when the screams begin. The funeral agent is being attacked by the kangaroo's victims, who are now undead.